The sirens were for me. At least that's how it felt as I stood knee-deep by the dock line in the water, coffee steaming on the rail my father built. Tires crunched the gravel before red and blue washed across the birch trunks. First warm morning after a stubborn spring, lake flat as a mirror, just a middle-aged man with a spinning reel. Until the HOA president screeched my name like she owned the shoreline, sir. You can't fish here without HOA approval. Phone in one hand, pamphlet in the other, lipstick the color of a stop sign, pressed blouse like armor. Folks call her Karen, not behind her back either. I didn't answer. I flicked the reel and let the lure dance where bass linger. Thought about my dad, same rail, same hour. He'd sip coffee, tug his cap, and say, "Son, if you're quiet long enough, a lake will tell you the truth." I tried to be quiet. Karen's voice cut the birch like a chainsaw. "I've called the police. You're trespassing on community water and you are not in compliance with our fisheries guideline." She shook the brochure like scripture. "There's a fine for unauthorized waterfront activity." "The lake was here before your guidelines," I said evenly, "and before that white picket fence you made everybody install." "That fence raises property values," she snapped. This a jab at my dock lowers community standards. Anger, disbelief, action, the beats thumped in my chest. This place isn't a community amenity. It's my family's cabin. My father's flag folded in a walnut shadow box over the mantel. My granddad's tackle box with his name stenciled in chipped black paint. Heritage, not hobby. A patrol SUV rolled in, gravel skipping. Young county deputy, good kid. Shoulders still learning the weight of a badge. He stepped out, hand near his belt, eyes wide at the scene. Me with a rod. Karen with a crusade, the lake pretending not to notice. "Morning," he said. "We got a call about trespass and unlawful angling?" "She's mistaken," I said. "My shore, my dock, my coffee." Karen thrust the pamphlet at him. "Bylaws were updated last month. All fishing must be board approved. There's an application fee." He didn't apply. "With respect, deputy," I said. "Steady HOA rules don't outrank deeds. This dock is on my parcel. Section line runs between those two birches. Been that way since my granddad surveyed it with a chain and compass." He glanced at the trees, then at me, then at Karen, who stood 5 feet tall on a 10-foot ladder of certainty. "Ma'am, I can't enforce HOA bylaws," he said. "That's civil, not criminal." She pointed at the water like it sinned. "Then cite him for harassment. He's harassing the fish." The kid tried not to smile. It still showed. The lake, if it could, exhaled, but the tension held. Karen wasn't satisfied with almost. She took pictures. Me, the dock, my coffee, my face evidence for her scrapbook. "I'll file a violation," she hissed. "The board will hear about his abuse of privileges." "Ma'am, I kept my temper on a short leash. There are no privileges to abuse. This is my home. My father taught me to cast on this plank. When I fish, I'm not breaking rules. I'm keeping promises." She rolled her eyes so hard you could hear it. Nostalgia doesn't override governance. Disbelief shifted to action. I reeled in, set the rod on the rail, and walked to the brass cleat warming in the sun. Ran my fingers over the grooves, same ones Dad gripped when we tied off the rowboat after storms. "Karen," I said quietly, "before you file anything, double-check your maps. Also this cabin? It has a second leaseholder." "A what?" She actually stepped back. First crack in the armor, the deputy frowned. "Leaseholder. Portions of this property are leased to a state agency," I said. "Been that way a while. Keeps things orderly." "I don't care if you lease it to Santa Claus," she snapped. "HOA rules are HOA rules." "Right," I said, soft as a ripple. "But they're not the only rules in town." His radio crackled. He answered, eyes on me now, curious. Which state agency? He asked. I lifted my cup, tasted steam and memory. You'll find out soon, I said. In about 2 minutes, you'll hear another set of tires on this gravel. Those folks don't come for fish. Cross the lake, a loon called Lonely, Silver. Karen's confidence faltered. Who did you call? I didn't call anyone. I didn't need to. The schedule is the schedule. Fridays at sunrise are what they are. A dark Tahoe eased into view. Not county. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that says everything on it is legal and nothing is for show. I set my cup down, racked the rod like a man putting away a respected tool. Karen, I said, neighborly as a porch. Hello. You might want to step back from the dock. Guests are coming. She laughed like glass. Guests. This is an HOA community. The Tahoe door opened with a heavy thunk. Plain clothes. But you could feel the uniform without seeing it. Polite. Practiced. Not here for nonsense. He looked at me, then at the deputy. Morning, he said. We're early. That okay? Plenty of coffee, I said. He smiled. We won't be long. Karen's mouth opened, closed, opened. Who are you? High and thin? He showed his shields, Mall, real, unarguable. State Police, he said. We lease the boathouse and access lane here for training and water rescue drills. And right then, the lake told the truth. Karen froze brain on black ice. The deputy cleared his throat, respectful, out of his depth, but trying. The Sergeant Rourke kept it friendly. Ma'am, we'll be in and out. No sirens, just skills refresh. You won't notice a thing. Is this authorized by the HOA? She demanded. Rourke was kind, but the corner of his mouth tipped. Authorized by the state of he, named it plain official. And by the leaseholder, which is, he looked to me. I raised a hand. That'd be me. She pivoted, pamphlet trembling. You never disclosed this partnership on your HOA occupancy form. Not required, I said. HOA forms cover paint colors and mailbox shapes. This lease predates the HOA by a decade. My dad signed after a teenager nearly drowned on the far cove, and the county learned how long it takes to launch from the public ramp. The state needed a staging point on this side. Dad said yes. Some things matter more than parking stickers. Color rose in her cheeks. We have rules and we have deeds, I said, gentle. In small places, you have to live with your victories. Also your survey. Wrong in one spot. When the developer split lots, a draft labeled my boathouse common access. That draft got stuffed into welcome packets. Folks assumed it was final. It wasn't. The recorded plat shows the line right here. I tapped the birch with the brass tag halfway up the trunk, the mark everyone thought was just a scar. My granddad set this pin before your bylaws were a twinkle. County clerk has the stamped copy. Said it like I'd rehearsed it. I had some facts you learn the hard way. She didn't step closer to see. She stepped forward to swing. We'll have the board review this lease. If it impacts community use, we can revoke. You can't revoke a state lease, Rourke said, steady as a hull. And you can't enforce bylaws on property you don't control. Not me being difficult, that's just law. She swerved. Then we'll fine him for disruptive maritime activity. Ma'am, the deputy said, humor leaking in. Nobody's maritime yet. Rourke nodded toward the boathouse. We'll stay out of your way. If residents have concerns, I'm happy to answer them afterward. I could have left it there, let official wait, settle the ripples, but Dad taught me the difference between winning and teaching. One makes you taller for a moment. The other makes tomorrow better for everyone. Karen, I softened my tone. You care about this neighborhood? So do I. That's why we allow the state to use the boathouse. Why I keep the dock sound. Why I pick up beer cans folks leave on the shore. There's a spare life ring under that rail. If a kid drifts too far, I'm the first boat out. That's not politics. That's neighborly. She stayed rigid, but the balloon lost air. You still should have told the board. Maybe, I said. Honesty oils stuck hinges. But you've sent me 3 notices because my flagpole is an inch taller than your chart. My father's flag flies on that pole on Memorial Day. I'm not cutting an inch off my father. The deputy studied his boots. Rourke studied me. I breathed in the rail's old splinter-smooth grain. How about a deal, I said. Stop treating heritage like a code violation, and I'll keep you looped in on training days. Fewer surprises. Fewer sunrise arguments. She finally looked at the lake. Her idea of it. A mallard carved a neat V-sun made the boathouse shingles warm as toast. Somewhere a coffee maker gurgled with a morning dove. Fine, she said at last. Like refusing a cookie she wanted? But I will bring this up with the board. Bring it up, I said. I'll bring the lease. We can bring the clerk. Work's team moved gear, throw bags, rescue boards, a folded inflatable with a motor that hummed like a library. No spectacle. Just capability. Karen pulled out her phone. I'll be filming, she warned, as if it were a sword. You do that, I said. Truth doesn't mind a camera. She clicked away down the path. The deputy tipped his cap. Have a better day, he told her. When she was out of earshot, he looked to me. I'm sorry, sir. Didn't realize. Nothing to be sorry for, I said. You showed up? You listened. Coffee? He glanced at the cruiser, at Rourke, back at me. Yes, sir. I'd appreciate it. We sat on the porch with mugs the color of old siding. He asked about the lease, how it started, how it worked. I told him about the near drowning, my dad, the county commissioner, and the night they hammered out a plan at our kitchen table while Mom set down meatloaf like fuel for a mission. We measure property in acres, Dad said, but we measure ourselves by what we'll do for strangers. Rourke swung by, took a cup, handed me the month's training schedule. We can adjust times if your family's up, he said. We try to be good guests. You always are, I said, and meant it. Footsteps returned. Karen this time with 2 board members in tow. One, Bill, had lived here longer than the HOA itself. He lifted a hand. Mornin', Jack. Coffee hot? Always, I said, already pouring. Don't get cozy, Bill, Karen snapped. We have a jurisdictional issue. Bill winked. Only jurisdiction I'm worried about is donuts. The team launched the inflatable, quiet and clean. Folks who'd seen ugly water and were set on making it less ugly for the next guy at the dock. I laid out a neat folder-recorded plat lease, renewals with state seal. No theatrics. Just paper and backbone. Bill adjusted his glasses. Looks in order, he said. Predates our HOA by 9 years. Recorded proper. Karen, we're not a government. Shed standards, she said, softer now. For lawns and sheds? Yes, he said. Not for rescue boats and deeds. We can ask to be informed. Not obeyed. Anger flickered to doubt. Maybe the first spark of humility. She handed the papers back without a speech. Thank you for telling us, she said, but real. Loop us in next time. I will, I said. And next time you've got a question, come to the porch before the police. She looked at the rope line, arcing gold in the light. I overreacted. We all do sometimes, I said. Dad used to say a calm voice is a bridge you can cross even when you're mad. Rourke wrapped up. We're done, Jack. Thank you. Karen surprised me. Thank you, she told him, eyes on the rescue board in quiet competence. I didn't know. Most folks don't, he said kindly. Now you do. The lake put a shimmer on the surface that looked like a grin. Ending there would be easy. HOA deflated, state police packed up. But real satisfaction isn't a quick fade. It's the click when something finally fits. A week later, the board posted a notice. Informational meeting shoreline safety and property lines. Saturday, at 10 a.m., Community Hall. No threats. No fines. Just information. I signed up to bring coffee and a map big enough to fold a life into. Saturday. The hall filled. Anglers, dog walkers, parents of toddlers who think water is land that forgot how to behave. Rourke stood by a table with rescue gear laid out like a promise. The deputy leaned on the back wall, looking an inch taller. I kept it neighborly. I'm Jack. My granddad set stakes on this shoreline. My dad taught me to cast here and to help first, grumble later. There's confusion about what's public, what's private, and what's shared. Let's make it simple. I unrolled the plat map across 2 tables, taped the corners, and traced the line between the birches. This is my dock. That boathouse sits on my parcel. The state leases it for training because, on the far cove, minutes matter more than memos. The HOA can't change that and shouldn't want to. What we can do is talk to each other before we talk at each other. Front row, Karen sat stiff. When I paused, she stood. Small, bristly, brave enough to face a room she'd trained to fear her. I called the cops, she said. No spin. I thought rules were being broken. I was wrong about which rules mattered. She looked at me. I apologize. Could feel the room tilt just a degree from crowd to community. I didn't stretch the pause. Thank you, I said. Apology accepted. Rourke gave a short, practical lake safety talk, the kind that saves somebody's kid in August. He lifted a throw bag, showed how to plant your feet before you toss, so the rope doesn't yank you in. Calm hands save lives, he said, same as calm voices. Karen asked about signage by the common path. Bill suggested a cedar post burned with private boathouse emergency training access. I offered to mill the wood and route the letters. The deputy volunteered to be present during trainings, so residents saw a familiar face. Anger gives. Disbelief gives action, gives justice, gives calm pride. The rhythm finally hit its last beat. Afterward, folks drifted to the porch with paper cups and store-bought cookies that tasted better because we'd earned them. A teenager hovered near the rescue board. Rourke slipped the strap over his shoulder. The kid stood taller. His mom's tired eyes softened. Karen handed me a folder. We corrected the welcome packet, she said. It now reflects the recorded plat, not the draft diagram. We added a note about the boathouse lease. Residents will be informed. Good, I said. If anyone wants a boathouse tour, my door's open. I'd like to see it. We walked down the path that had heard too many arguments and not enough thank yous. The boathouse smelled like cedar and engine oil, the church and workshop of this lake. I showed her the hooks for life jackets. The brass cleat I polished because Dad did. Good habits are heirlooms. You pass down without a will. She traced the bench grain. I grew up in a duplex, she said quietly. No dock. No lake. Sometimes I police things because I'm afraid of losing them. I thought of Dad's flag and how I grip it every Memorial Day like my fingers could keep the dead from slipping away. We all protect what we love, I said. It goes better when we admit that's what we're doing. She looked out at the water wind, making little hands on the surface. I don't want to be the villain in people's stories. Then don't be, I said gently. Be the neighbor. We walked back to the hall. No sirens, no pamphlet fencing. Just 2 people who'd stood too tall and were learning to stand just right. That afternoon, I fished again. Same time, same steam from the cup. The lake wore its honest face. Across the cove, a family launched a canoe, shaky at first, steadier every stroke. On the common path, kids chased a dragonfly and forgot to fight about whose turn it was to lead. I cast into shadowware, big bass think. Their invisible land felt the quiet tug. When I brought the fish to the rail, I saw myself in its polished scales. Older than I feel, younger than I admit. A man holding more than a line. I let the fish go. Dad taught me to take what we need and leave the rest for tomorrow, and if we're lucky. For our kids, the lake was calm again, and for the first time in years. So was I. Sometimes the rule that matters most is the one you write on your own heart. Be the kind of neighbor your father would nod at from the porch. Have you dealt with an HOA like this? Share your story in the comments. Read every one. If you believe some fights are worth having, hit subscribe and let's stand up together.